Motors, builders of Hudson Motor Cars, Kelvinator Home Appliances, and Nash Automobiles, present Walt Disney's Disneyland.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are.
Each week as you enter this timeless land, one of these many worlds will open to you. Tomorrowland, promise of things to come. Fantasyland, the happiest kingdom of them all. Frontierland, tall tales and true from the legendary past. Adventureland, the wonder world of nature's own realm. Presenting this week from Adventureland, Cameras in Africa and a true life adventure in Beaver Valley. Now, your host, Walt Disney.
About 3 years ago, we set out to film the story of the African lion. But it soon developed that we were making a picture as big as Africa itself. Although the King of Beasts remains our central character, hippos, elephants, rhinos, great herds of grazing beasts all play important and sometimes very dramatic roles in our story. Ordinarily, filming such a picture would require tons of equipment, elaborate safaris, and a half a dozen camera crews. But instead, we had Al and Alma Milotte, a husband and wife team of photographers, and they were all that we needed. Now, the Milottes operate entirely alone. No safaris, no guides. I don't think they even have a gun between them. The equipment they use is only cameras and courage. Now, it isn't often that we find Al in town, but when we do, he usually has a very interesting story to tell. And this time, it's his own true life adventure behind the cameras in Africa.
Almost every country has its national parks and game preserves. And each park is usually noted for one particular form of wildlife. In Canada, Jasper National Park features the moose. In the United States, Yellowstone National Park is famous for its American black bear. In fact, that's where Elma and I filmed the true life adventure called Bear Country. And so when we heard that Kruger National Park in South Africa was the place to find lions, that's the place we headed for. This is the African version of a motel, but over here they call them rest camps. If it really was a rest camp, Elma and I never got a chance to prove it. We were much too busy. And since this was the last place we could take on supplies, we didn't dare forget anything. I suppose you would call this food with an international flavor. But at least we knew what was in the other half of the can. Of course, the purpose of our expedition was to film the true life adventure story of the African lion. So in addition to food and general equipment, we took camera accessories for every condition possible in photography. Once on the road in Kruger National Park, the African story began with an ostrich and a fan dance. After the performance, the star of the show consented to pose for some informal portraits. Elma was housewife, sound engineer, assistant cameraman, chauffeur, and in her spare time, official still photographer of the expedition. If you want to see lions for sure, Kruger Park's the place to go. They're plentiful here. Of course, so are automobiles and people. Even though the lions strike their most picturesque poses at the sight of a camera, you'll notice nobody gets out of a car to take a picture. In a remote stretch of river, we found hippos. sounds of Africa were vital to our story, too. And so it was a part of our job to make on-the-spot tape recordings. This looks like a lethal weapon, but actually it's only a directional microphone. The hippos were so entertaining, we were sorry to leave them. But our main objective was lions. So we pushed on and found rhinoceros. These were the rare white rhinos that can be found only in this remote corner of Zululand. I'd been told that a rhino's behavior was unpredictable, that you never knew whether he was going to charge or not. Still, I figured this was the chance I had to take to get pictures. Here I'm moving in much too close. I guess it's beginner's luck that I got away with it. Lunch along the way, and by this time we always ate in the truck. It was safer. Here's one of the reasons why. The black rhino. I was to look a lot of rhinos in the eye during my stay in Africa, but I never learned to like it. They say a charging rhino can overturn a truck. And so until this fellow made up his mind, we had a few bad moments. A rhino going away doesn't present his most attractive camera angle, but this was one picture we were glad to take. What we were still looking for, though, was that ideal shooting site where animals of every kind and variety lived in a truly wild state. There were such places in Africa, and one of these, we were told, was the fabulous Serengeti Plain in the Tanganyika territory, about 2,000 miles away. And so we pushed off. Along the way, we came upon the strangest episode in the African story. It was a rhino who led us to it. As we followed this fellow with our cameras down to a water hole, we came upon another rhino hopelessly bogged in the mud. What we were seeing was a fossil in the making. For this is exactly how prehistoric animals were trapped in the tar pits and clay beds of a bygone era. Here at the water hole, the same trap awaits all comers. But the others are lucky. They leave. He remains. A baboon, one of the most intelligent of animals, appears to study the problem, but is unable to find the answer. An impala shows only a passing interest. The elephant is the only animal big enough and strong enough to help. But of course, nothing could be further from his mind. In fact, he finds the rhino's agony so upsetting, he finally panics and runs away. Deserted by his fellow creatures, his great strength ebbing fast, still the rhino's will to survive remains strong to the end. Death is never easy in Africa. A moment ago, it looked like we left a dying rhino stuck in the mud. But the truth is, we didn't leave him. We pulled him out with our camera truck, and he was still very much alive. During the rescue operation, there wasn't much time for pictures. Not moving pictures anyway. But we did manage to get a few stills. Here I've got one line around the fellow, but I don't know what to do next. At this point, a game warden and his guards happened along. And together we managed to hitch a couple more lines around the rhino. And here's the warden's signal to haul away. Operation Rescue is just about complete here. Our little strip of movie film was taken after the rescue. In the next moment, he charged us. To show his gratitude, I suppose. Another still picture just before he hit the truck. This was the last view we had of him as he went on his grumpy way. All through the dry season, we kept pushing on toward our destination, the Serengeti Plain. We were still moving when the rainy season arrived. Here the natives serve as living guideposts to keep us in the shallow places. On the water-soaked plains, we were trapped time and again. And so another duty was added to our already overworked truck. In addition to being home, office, warehouse, workshop, darkroom, and mobile blind, it now had to become its own tow truck. I don't know what we'd have done without the motor winch to pull us out of the really tough places. And so we rumbled on. And finally, after days and weeks of travel, we got there. We were on the edge of the Ngorongoro crater, and just beyond lay the Serengeti Plain. At least that's what our map said. Actually, from car level, we could see nothing, but we had come equipped for this situation. On the top of the truck was a collapsible camera tower. It took only a few minutes to put it up, but I was to spend days up here. If I were asked to choose the most impressive scenes of all the thousands I shot for the African lion, I'd have to say that they were the ones I saw from this tower. Here, spread out across the Serengeti Plain, was an incredible panorama. Wildebeest, eland, gazelle, zebra, millions of animals stretching into and beyond the horizon. Here is the lion's food. Here, then, must be his domain. Among lions, it's the female who does most of the hunting, and while the other mothers are out shopping for dinner, one is left behind as a babysitter. These youngsters have wandered off on their own, and nurse has to bring them home again. Keeping tabs on these fiddle-footed youngsters is a never-ending job. At the proper time, the cubs are given lessons in hunting. Here, they're learning to look as unhungry as possible while approaching a herd of wildebeest. But when the herd approaches them, well, they decide it's wiser to wait for a few more lessons. With food on all sides, feeding the family wouldn't appear to be much of a problem. But it's an odd fact that the grazing animals can sense when the lioness is hunting. Animals that watched her with only curiosity before are now panic-stricken at her approach. Impala depart in soaring bounds. Zebras retreat in a cloud of dust. And the eland calls on his powerful legs to carry him out of danger. But the lioness has spotted a lone wildebeest. And now she begins her stalk. The hunt is a normal part of the lion's existence, and her existence is part of nature's infinite plan. We knew that our feature on the African lion wouldn't be complete without the telling of this chapter. And we believe that this was one of the first unstaged lion kills ever recorded on film. And here it is. But in the African story, tragic moments are often relieved by moments of comedy. In the lion's realm, the baboons are the court jesters, And our true life adventure cameras were able to record many intimate moments in their private lives. A baby baboon always sticks close to mother. And wherever she goes, he rides the rumble seat. The familiar giraffe comes equipped with a built-in lookout tower, which helps him spot danger a long way off. His neck also serves as a weapon in these mating combats. This may look like a good-natured sparring match, but one well-directed blow can mean a broken neck. The most confident and casual of all the big cats, the cheetah, never worries about catching up with his dinner, for the cheetah is the fastest four-footed animal on Earth. His top speed is an incredible 80 miles an hour. And once he selects his quarry, he ignores everything else in his path. In a race with a cheetah, few escape. In the motion picture story of the African lion, the elephant is the heavy in the cast, but only in the matter of size. Actually, he has no natural enemies and goes his way through the African scene unmolested. Although he leads a leisurely life, he's the most vigilant of all animals, and we counted ourselves extremely lucky to catch these intimate glimpses of these elusive animals. In their baths, some elephants favor total submersion. Others prefer to draw their own shower. In the African lion story, the chapter on elephants is fully told. These are only a few of the highlight scenes. Through the lion's realm flow the rivers of Africa. And here, too, thundering cataracts fill the air with majestic sound. And up from the heart of the lion's hunting ground, the mountains of Africa rear their heads. And the lion's subjects wander the limitless plains in variety and numbers beyond counting. Rhino, zebra, hippo, giraffe, wildebeest, cheetah, warthog, roan antelope, sable antelope, impala, buffalo, waterbuck, leopard, jackal, hyena, hartebeest. All these and many others pay homage to one majestic animal. Truly, the story of Africa is the story of the African lion, king of beasts.
One of the first films in our True Life Adventure series was Beaver Valley, and it was Al and Elma Milotte who photographed a major part of that story. Now, it took them 2 years to film the private life of the beaver, 2 years of hard work, patience, and perseverance. So as a sort of a tribute to the Milottes for their many fine contributions to our nature films, we're going to visit Beaver Valley now. So let's join our guide and narrator, Winston Hibbler.
There was once a time when all of North America was a great green wilderness, nature's undisputed domain. Today, the rocky wall of the Continental Divide is one of her few remaining strongholds. There are still many hidden valleys here, remote, almost inaccessible to man, where time is measured by the passing seasons and only nature's law prevails. Such a place is Beaver Valley. There was once a time when all of North America was a great green wilderness, nature's undisputed domain. Today, the rocky wall of the Continental Divide is one of her few remaining strongholds. There are many hidden valleys here, remote, almost inaccessible to man, where time is still measured by the passing seasons and only nature's law prevails. Such a place is Beaver Valley, the setting for another true life adventure. Under the warm touch of spring, the deeps of the neighboring peaks begin to thaw. Brooks are formed and rushing waterfalls. By midsummer, however, these seasonal floods will be spent, leaving the prairies below barren and dry. And yet Beaver Valley will remain fertile and green. The reason may be found in water conservation. And chief conservationist here is nature's own engineer, the amazing beaver. This little homesteader is the valley's #1 citizen. Yet he builds not in the interest of public welfare, but solely for his own protection. The reservoir he constructs is the moat that surrounds his lodge, and as a further protection, the lodge is always equipped with an underwater entrance. Vital to his security is the water level in his pond, which he maintains by a truly remarkable dam. This he builds with mud and branches and infinite patience. He also constructs auxiliary dams and a system of canals for floating limbs to the scene of construction. With his chiseled teeth, the beaver can fell even full-grown trees. However, he's interested only in the branches. These are the raw material for his dams, and their tender bark is the main item in his diet. The beaver is a solid citizen, and he builds a solid house. He has no use for frivolity, nor will he even pause to pass the time of day with a fellow worker. Strictly a vegetarian, he hurries through a solitary lunch, then gets back to his construction job, always workmanlike, always stubbornly persistent. The beaver is a true pioneer, for wherever he fashions his dams, others follow. His ponds create swamps where cattails grow. Among these reeds, the marsh wren tidies her summer cottage. And a pair of honeymooners up from the south find seclusion among the cattails. Even this rich meadow was once a beaver pond. Filled with silt, the pond has become a pasturage. Here the lordly moose and his family graze in the midst of plenty. While half hidden among the wildflowers, a tiny chipmunk pampers his palate. From the sheltering forest, the timid deer comes to the beaver's pond to nibble on the tender water plants. But Madam Moose goes into this matter of eating more deeply. If that stuff along the shore is good, no telling what you might find farther out. So she browses along the bottom at considerable length to dredge up her dinner. To these streams in Beaver Valley, the salmon will soon come back to spawn. And here trout abide in the deep pools. Along the shores, the crayfish digs his tunnels, pushing and shoving the mud like a miniature bulldozer. But no tunnel is too deep for Mother Raccoon when she prowls the bank in search of a shore dinner. The family in the bleachers watch her make a sensational one-handed catch. Actually, she turns the trick by letting the crayfish catch her. Nature plays no favorites, and you babies must be provided for. Here comes a male hawk with a mouse in his talons. He's going to try a mid-air transfer of his prey to the mother bird. A neat trick if he can do it. And there it goes. A few moments later, dinner is served. In a neighboring tree, a mother owl keeps her eye peeled for intruders. Then she goes back to filling Junior as full as a stuffed owl. The search for food is such a desperate business in Beaver Valley. There's little time for the after-dinner siesta. Still, the marmot finds a moment to take the sun. But not for long. Beaver country is fine country. Settlers are pouring in. And whenever you have a land rush, there's sure to be at least one unsavory character among them. Like this coyote, who has strayed a long way from his native plains. Beaver Valley should be easy pickings. What makes it hard is the Vigilance Committee. It seems that a coyote can't make a move these days without somebody giving the alarm. The marmot finds cover below. Even the badger takes no chances but beats a hasty retreat to the safety of his burrow. But if some hide, there are others who rely on camouflage. One of these bare branches is a blue heron, who hopes the coyote will see nothing but the sticks and pass on by. He may look like a stick, but he doesn't smell like a stick. So when the coyote's nose prompts him to investigate, the heron takes wing. Even so, the coyote has been tricked. The male heron was merely a decoy, and the female remains undisturbed on her nest, a study in suspended animation. A cousin of the heron, the bittern, is equally cautious when near her nest and never goes directly to it. On her roundabout approach, even the cracking of a twig will make her freeze in her tracks and melt into the scenery. The danger past, this wily old bird continues on her cautious, sure-footed way. Baby bitterns can play statue too. Now they're milkweed stalks, now they're hungry little birds. All over Beaver Valley, mothers are looking after their young, teaching them the art of self-preservation. Today's lesson is the quick takeoff. That is, it's supposed to be the quick takeoff. Too bad their wings aren't as well developed as their outboard motors. Meanwhile, the beaver has his family troubles too. A housing problem. His youngsters are called kits, and usually there are several generations cluttering up the place at once. It gets very crowded with so many babies nosing about the backyard or tied to mother's apron strings that finally the 2-year-old sets out to face the world, as an elder brother should. He travels cross-country by means of his father's canals. Then he heads into unknown waters. Before long, he misses the company of his brothers and sisters, but now he's a long way from home, and the lure of the unexplored wilderness draws him on and on. Finally, he goes ashore to see what this new world has to offer. He finds everything to his taste. If only there was someone to share it with. He's just setting out again on his lonely travels when he spies a female on the shore. She's lovely. And fastidious. Quite the most charming little beaver that ever graced a riverbank. Or let herself be kissed in a quiet pool. He's so smitten with her charms that when a rival male moves in, he quickly drives him away. But just a minute. Where did this youngster come from? No beaver kit is ever permitted to wander about alone. And then the bridegroom sees the light. His mate is a young widow with a baby needing protection. So this is the way of the world. His first day away from home and he ends up with a family. But the honeymoon will have to wait. There's a dam to be built before this shallow stream will afford them protection. The noise attracts the coyote. He's been prowling about just hoping to catch something off guard. Something like this kid who is young and inexperienced. The kid senses the danger, but isn't quite sure what to do about it. After such an object lesson as that, he's got to get busy on the dam. And so the turbulent spring passes, giving way to the calm of midsummer. Nature is at peace with herself, and as evening falls, her creatures will soon be at rest. But not the beaver. To stay on schedule, he works the night shift, too. His dam is nearly finished, and he can be proud of it. He learned his trade during a long apprenticeship at home. His father taught him that the best protection against floods is a well-made spillway. So he wedges in his sticks head on to brace against the push of the current. 1,000 sticks, 1,000 trips. Night after night he works, all through the summer. The dam is only the first of his jobs. He still has to build a house, and after that gather a food supply for the coming winter. He never stops to rest. And while he labors, the symphony of the summer night begins. The crickets are the first to tune up. The beaver listens and is reassured. For when the night is full of sound, he knows that all is well. The frogs have a less practical point of view. There's romance in the air. This is the soulful serenade of the love-lorn frogs. And so the summer nights pass. The beaver working, the frogs wooing. Indeed, Beaver Valley is such an ideal place for matchmaking, even the salmon come home to mate in its streams. From hundreds of miles downstream, they fight their way through rocks and rapids bound for the quieter headwaters. Instinct spurs them on to their spawning grounds. Some destroy themselves on the jagged rocks. Others exhaust their magnificent strength, trapped in the shallow side pools. Some escape. Some, like souls in torment, await their doom. A few encounter the Prince of Darkness himself. The bear knows they must pass this way by the thousands, and that he can gorge himself, hit or miss, in an orgy of indulgence. With such an inexhaustible supply, he can afford to pick and choose, and dines only on the choicest fillets. Yet in spite of all, the strong among them survive and fight their way past enemies and obstacles to the spawning beds of Beaver Valley. These are the waters they left years ago. This is the home that in some mysterious fashion has always been remembered. The female lays her eggs. The male fertilizes them, then covers them with sand. Now they await their end. Their life cycle is complete. They will die, but their kind will be born anew. Overhead, the ravens, nature's scavengers, hover in ever-diminishing circles, waiting. Autumn in Beaver Valley is dazzling and beautiful. But the young beaver has no time to admire the fall colors. Like many another anxious harvester, he's worried about his feed pile. All he can see is the first thin film of ice. Unlike the bear, the beaver doesn't hibernate. He'll need a food supply to carry him through the winter. And so before his pond freezes over, he stocks his feed pile with tender saplings. One by one, he takes the branches down and anchors them securely to the bottom. The mother, concerned about her house, gives it a final weatherproofing of mud. And then, just when every minute is precious, suddenly a pack of traveling clowns appears on the scene. These are the otters, the gypsies of Beaver Valley. Fun-loving, happy-go-lucky, they're as frolicsome as the beaver is industrious. Otters are related to the mink, the weasel, and distantly to the seal. With their four-webbed feet, they're as much at home in water as they are on land, and they take a keen delight in churning up the quiet waters of the beaver's private swimming pool. Mrs. Beaver takes a dim view of such rowdies and hustles her baby to the refuge of the house. Father drops his work and comes racing to protect the homestead. It isn't every day these hoodlums have a chance to play horse with the sober sides like this. But the beaver is not amused. There's work to be done, and this is no time for games. The otters can make him look bad, but they can't whip him. Indeed, they have a healthy respect for this dull little fellow with the big, sharp teeth, and so they keep their distance. After all, the beaver's home is his castle, and our hero is determined to hold off the invaders, even if it takes all winter. But these good time Charlies can't play the same game for 5 minutes without getting bored. With the approach of winter, the sky wears a necklace of wild geese. Most of the summer visitors have already headed south, and even these hardy campers will soon join them. of the permanent residents of the community, the beaver goes about his preparations for the lean months ahead. His feed pile is packed with more than enough saplings to carry him through. But this is his first winter on his own, and he's determined that his family will not go hungry. He's a born worrier, always looking forward to the worst. And so he sets out on one last foraging trip. The saplings along the shoreline have long since been cut, so Father Beaver must venture into new territory some distance from his pond. This is dangerous business so far from water. On land, he's slow and clumsy and practically defenseless. It's been a lean season for this fellow. He's almost forgotten what a square meal tastes like. After all, you can't eat snow. Suddenly, he sees a small, dark object against the white background. In an instant, the chase is on. It's close, but the beaver makes it. And a bad loser gives voice to his woe. Winter has tightened its grip now, and the beaver pond has frozen solid, save for one small hole by the spillway. The close call with the coyote has failed to shake our young beaver's stubborn resolve. And even though he's overstocked with provisions, he's determined to add one more tasty branch to his deep freeze. The stick seems to have a mind of its own, but the most obstinate piece of wood that ever grew is no match for this beaver's persistence. Once he's started something, he'll never give up. If necessary, he'll even gnaw the ice to make the hole bigger. For he's determined to poke that bulky branch downstairs, or no other reason why. But if winter brings the beaver nothing but problems, it brings the carefree otters nothing but fun. Now, winter sports include skating, of course, so let's see if the pond is ready. Whoop. Just a trifle too thin. There's always the toboggan side. Night and a crescent moon. Under its spell, all nature lies sleeping. All except a certain beaver. He'll stick with this thing until the hole freezes over. And it did. Now, safe and warm in a sturdy house, the beaver at last enjoys a well-earned rest. while the coyote must continue his endless wandering through the misty hollows. And so, with the coming of winter, the seasons complete their cycle to close a true life adventure in this hidden place called Beaver Valley.
Next week, our program will come from Fantasyland. Here now are a few scenes from that show. Robert Louis Stevenson's famous classic, Treasure Island.
Next week from Fantasyland, Walt Disney brings you one of the great adventure stories of all time, Robert Louis Stevenson's pirate classic, Treasure Island. Be aboard the good ship Hispaniola as it sets forth on one of the world's best-loved adventure tales in quest of buried treasure. Live again the rollicking, roistering days of the Spanish Main as Robert Louis Stevenson's exciting characters come to life. Young Jim Hawkins, who started the whole adventure.
Glass of double rum.
The bumbling, bumptious Squire Trelawney.
Crosses to mark the deposits. Money to roll in. You're a trump, young Hawkins. Mark my words, you will share.
The young Dr. Livesey.
Bear to larboard, due northeast of foot of White Crag, 10 paces east.
And that immortal, lovable rogue, Long John Silver.
Don't go waving it in the face of every man who asks for a glass of stout.
Oh, no, Mr. Silver.
But if you clamps your deadlights on that there black dog again, repel the orders.
I know, sir.
And I knows a lad I can trust while I'm out doing my duty by Squire. And when I come back, I'll have a crew and you'll have a pistol.
You mean to keep?
That's my meaning, lady. You got the word of Long John Silver. Shipmates.
Shipmates.
They're all here to the life. Blind Pew, Captain Billy Bones, Black Dog, and all the rest of Long John Silver's famous blustering pirate crew. Your heart will travel again the high road to adventure as the classic tale unfolds through the eyes of young Jim Hawkins.
Why?
Well, here's a captain with a suspicious turn of mind, and here's Long John handing out firearms to an able-bodied seaman like yourself.
But I'd do no harm with it.
Would you keep it out of sight?
Yes, sir.
You ain't given to rum drinking, are you?
Oh, no, sir.
With Bobby Driscoll, Robert Newton, Basil Sidney, Dennis O'Day, and Finley Curry. It's Walt Disney's version of Robert Louis Stevenson's rollicking pirate yarn, Treasure Island, Part 1. Coming to you next week from Fantasyland. Next week, Disneyland will be brought to you by...
When your heart is in your dream.
You have seen the story of how Walt Disney's ace camera team, the Milottes, photographed his latest and most thrilling true-life adventure feature, African Lion. Don't miss this exciting motion picture coming to your favorite theater in 1955. Remember, it's Walt Disney's latest true-life adventure feature, African Lion, in Technicolor. This has been an ABC Television Network presentation.